The perpetual snowstorm on Thrir 9 howled with such violence that it seemed to want to tear apart the ancient archive station nestled within its icy grasp. Inside, the weak bioluminescent lights flickered, casting eerie blue shadows across the curved walls of what had been Wayne's solitary home for the past 6 years. The human scholar had chosen isolation for a reason to decode the glyphs left by those who came before, to preserve knowledge that might otherwise be lost to time. Tonight, as the wind screamed across the frozen landscape, he huddled closer to his portable heater, the only source of warmth in his cramped living quarters. Wayne's fingers traced the spiral patterns on the ancient tablet before him, his eyes straining in the dim light. 6 years alone had changed him. His once clean-shaven face now bore a thick beard, streaked with premature gray despite being only 34. His hands, once steady in university lecture halls, now showed calluses from the physical labor required to maintain the station's failing systems. Yet his eyes remained sharp, focused on the delicate carvings that predated the Union by thousands of years. Temperature decrease detected. Current external reading, -72 degrees, announced the station's monitoring system in its flat, emotionless voice. Wayne barely acknowledged it. This was normal for Thrir 9. He reached for his tea now, cold and bitter, and grimaced as he swallowed. The isolation was complete here. No transmissions, no visitors, no distractions. Just Wayne, the ancient archives, and the howling void outside. He'd chosen this fate after the diplomatic failure on Nexus Prime, a wound that still ached when he allowed himself to remember. The knock came as such a surprise that at first, Wayne believed he had imagined it. A hallucination born of loneliness, perhaps. But it came again, 3 distinct taps against the station's outer airlock door. Impossible. No ships had been detected in orbit. No landing craft would attempt descent in this storm. No one even knew he was here, except for the annual supply drone. Wayne moved to the security panel, his heart pounding. The external camera showed only swirling snow and darkness at first, but then movement. A figure huddled against the door, clearly struggling to remain upright in the brutal winds. A survivor. A lost traveler. Wayne hesitated years of self-imposed isolation, making him wary of any contact. But compassion won out. He activated the airlock sequence and watched through the internal camera as the outer door slid open. The figure stumbled inside just before the door closed again, collapsing onto the floor of the small chamber. Wayne waited for the decontamination process to complete his mind racing. Who could this be? What did they want? When the inner door finally opened, he stepped back instinctively, reaching for the plasma cutter he kept for emergencies. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin was a pale blue-green that seemed to shimmer slightly, even in the dim light. Her face, delicate and angular, bore markings that resembled the glyphs Wayne had been studying. She wore little more than tattered rags that could hardly provide protection against the killing cold outside. Most startling were her eyes, large, entirely black, and currently fixed on Wayne, with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. The moment stretched between them, and then to Wayne's shock, the visitor knelt in what appeared to be a ritual posture, head-bowed, arms extended before her with palms up. "I offer myself in exchange for shelter." Her voice was melodic but weak. "A night of warmth for whatever service you require." Wayne stared speechless. The implication was clear and disturbing. This wasn't a request for help, it was a transaction. One that made his stomach turn. "Get up," he finally managed, his voice rough from disuse. "There's no need for that here." The visitor remained kneeling, confusion flickering across her features. "It is the way. The offering must be made." "Not here. Not with me." Wayne moved slowly, retrieving a thermal blanket from his emergency supplies. He approached cautiously and held it out. "Take this. You must be freezing." She hesitated, black eyes, studying him as if trying to understand some complex puzzle. Then slowly, she reached for the blanket, her fingers brushing against his. They were ice cold. "I am Kaya," she said as she wrapped the blanket around her thin shoulders. "Of the twins." Wayne, he replied, simply, stepping back to give her space. Human, scholar. He gestured awkwardly to his surroundings. This is an ancient archive station. I'm here to study and translate the glyphs. Kaya's eyes widened slightly at the mention of glyphs, but she remained silent, clutching the blanket tightly around herself. How did you get here? Wayne asked. There's no settlement for thousands of kilometers. My ship crashed 3 days' walk from here, she answered, her voice steadying. I saw your lights through the storm. 3 days in that cold. It seemed impossible, yet here she was. Wayne studied her more carefully. Her species was unknown to him, but something about her markings seemed familiar from his studies. You need food and proper rest, he decided, pushing aside his suspicions for the moment. I don't have much, but I can share. Why? The question was simple, but loaded with genuine confusion. Wayne frowned. Because you need help. That's enough. A look of bafflement crossed Kaya's face, as if the concept was entirely foreign to her. But she didn't argue further, instead, rising to her feet with a grace that belied her weakened state. Wayne led her to his small kitchen area, acutely aware of how unprepared his living space was for visitors. Everything was functional, nothing comfortable or welcoming. He had long ago stopped caring about such things. He heated a container of synthesized protein stew, the best he could offer, and placed it before her, along with a spoon. Eat. It's not great, but it's nutritious. Kaya stared at the food, then at the spoon with evident confusion. You don't know how to use a spoon? Wayne asked, trying to keep judgment from his voice. The twins are fed by the elders, she replied softly. Until the offering. The statement raised more questions than it answered, but Wayne chose not to press. Instead, he demonstrated dipping his own spoon into the stew and bringing it to his mouth. Kaya mimicked the action with surprising precision, and her eyes widened at the first taste. It is good, she said, sounding surprised. Like I said, nutritious, not great, Wayne replied, but felt an unexpected warmth at her approval. How long had it been since he'd shared a meal with another being too long to remember? They ate in silence, Kaya becoming more confident with each spoonful. When she finished, she placed the bowl down and looked at Wayne expectantly. What happens now? She asked. The question held that same implication as before, making Wayne uncomfortable again. Now you rest, he said firmly. I'll make up a sleep space for you. Her confusion returned. But the exchange? There is no exchange, Wayne interrupted. You needed help, I helped, that's all. That is not how the universe functions, Kaya insisted, a hint of desperation entering her voice. All things must balance. I cannot accept without giving in return. Wayne considered her words, recognizing a deeply ingrained cultural belief when he heard one. Fine, he conceded. Tomorrow you can help me organize some of the archives. That will be your payment. The tension in Kaya's shoulders eased immediately, and she nodded, seemingly satisfied by this arrangement. Wayne wondered what kind of society she came from, where help was never freely given, without expectation of repayment. He created a makeshift bed from spare thermal blankets in the small side room he used for storage. It wasn't comfortable, but it was warm and safe. You can sleep here, he told her. The door locks from the inside. I'll be in the main room if you need anything. Kaya looked at the room, then at the door lock with evident surprise. I may close myself in? Of course. Privacy and safety are yours by right. She shook her head slightly. Strange concepts, but thank you, Wayne of the humans. As Wayne turned to leave, Kaya called after him. The markings on your tablets, she said. I recognize them. Wayne stopped, turning back slowly. You can read them. A small, enigmatic smile touched her lips. Some. They are the old words. The twins are taught fragments for the remembering. Before Wayne could ask what she meant, Kaya retreated into the small room and closed the door. The lock engaged with a soft click, leaving Wayne standing alone, his mind racing with questions about his mysterious visitor. Back in his own sleeping area, Wayne found rest elusive. The presence of another being after so many years of solitude was jarring. More concerning were the implications of Kaya's knowledge. If she could indeed read even fragments of the ancient script, it could advance his work by years. But her talk of offerings and twins raised alarm bells. Was she running from something or someone? He finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, dreaming of spiral glyphs that transformed into black eyes, watching him from the darkness. Morning on Thrir 9 was indistinguishable from night, the perpetual storm blocking any sunlight that might reach the surface. Wayne woke to the artificial dawn created by his biolights, momentarily forgetting his visitor, until he heard soft movement from the storage room. Kaya emerged, looking stronger than the previous night. The markings on her face seemed more vibrant, shifting slightly with the light. She had fashioned the thermal blanket into a kind of robe, securing it with bits of her tattered clothing. "The storm continues," she observed, looking toward the sealed windows. "It always does," Wayne replied, moving to prepare their morning meal. Thrir 9 has been in a perpetual ice age for millennia. The archives were built before it started when this moon was temperate. Kaya nodded, as if this confirmed something she already knew. "The Great Cooling. It is in the old words." Wayne paused in his preparation. "You mentioned last night that you recognize the glyphs. How is that possible? These records predate the Union by thousands of years." "The twins are keepers," she said simply, as if that explained everything. When Wayne's confusion was evident, she continued, "We carry the memories of before. It is why we are made." "Made." Wayne pushed a bowl of reconstituted fruit toward her. "You mean born." Kaya accepted the food again, studying the utensil before mimicking Wayne's use of it. "The distinction is unimportant. We exist to preserve what came before." Wayne wanted to press further, but something in Kaya's demeanor suggested she wouldn't elaborate. Instead, he changed tack. "Would you be willing to look at some of the tablets I've been struggling with? Perhaps you might recognize something I've missed." For the first time, genuine enthusiasm brightened Kaya's features. "Yes, the old words are comforting." After breakfast, Wayne led her to his work area, where dozens of tablets and fragments were carefully arranged on specialized preservation tables. The biolights here were stronger, designed to illuminate the delicate carvings without damaging them. Kaya approached reverently, her fingers hovering above the surfaces without touching. "These are sacred," she whispered. "Their history," Wayne agreed. "Knowledge that would otherwise be lost." For hours, they worked side by side, Wayne showing Kaya his translation methods, while she offered insights into symbols he had misinterpreted. Her knowledge wasn't comprehensive. She couldn't read full passages, but she recognized key terms and concepts that had eluded Wayne for years. "This spiral," she said, pointing to a recurring symbol. "It represents memory. Not physical memory, but the thing that makes you you." "Consciousness," Wayne suggested. Kaya considered. "Perhaps. The old words say it is the essence that continues when the body fails." The concept was familiar from many human religions, yet here it was in records that predated humanity's first steps into space. The implications were enormous. As they worked, Wayne found himself studying Kaya as much as the tablets. The way her expressions shifted minutely when she recognized a symbol. The graceful movements of her hands as she traced patterns in the air above the carvings. The melodic quality of her voice when she recited phrases in a language long dead to most of the galaxy. "You're not just a scholar," Wayne realized aloud. "You're a living archive." Kaya's expression darkened. "Half of one," she corrected. "The twins are meant to be two. I am incomplete." Before Wayne could ask what she meant, the station's alert system blared to life. "Power reserves at 20%. Auxiliary systems shutting down to conserve energy." The biolights dimmed immediately, and the gentle hum of the atmospheric recyclers grew quieter. Wayne cursed under his breath. "The storm must have damaged the collection arrays," he explained to Kaya. "Without sunlight, we rely on stored energy cells, but the primary cells are failing. I've been meaning to retrieve the ancient power cells from the lower levels, but it's dangerous to go alone." "I will accompany you," Kaya offered immediately. Wayne hesitated. The lower archives aren't stable. There have been several collapses over the years. Then we must hurry before more of the old words are lost, Kaya said with unexpected conviction. And before we freeze. She had a point. Without power, the heating system would fail within hours, and the temperature would quickly drop to lethal levels. Wayne nodded reluctantly and moved to gather equipment. We'll need lights, he said, pulling portable illuminators from a storage locker, and tools to access the sealed chambers, and emergency breathing apparatus in case the air is stale. Kaya accepted the equipment he handed her, examining each item with curiosity before figuring out its function. Wayne was impressed by her quick adaptability. The ancient power cells are different from modern technology, he explained, as they prepared. They draw energy from gravitational fluctuations rather than solar radiation. That's why they're still viable after thousands of years. But they're also unstable if mishandled. I will follow your guidance, Kaya assured him, securing the breathing apparatus around her neck as he demonstrated. The descent into the lower archives required navigating a spiral staircase that burrowed deep into the moon's crust. The walls here were rougher, carved directly from the bedrock, rather than constructed. Their lights cast long shadows that seemed to move of their own accord, creating an unsettling atmosphere. The temperature is dropping quickly, Wayne observed, checking his environmental monitor. We need to hurry. The staircase ended at a massive stone door covered in glyphs, more intricate than those in the upper archives. Wayne had only ventured this far once before, shortly after arriving on Thrir 9. The door had resisted his attempts to translate its locking mechanism, and he had eventually given up, focusing on the more accessible upper archives instead. Now, Kaya moved forward without hesitation, her fingers tracing specific patterns among the dense carvings. You know how to open it? Wayne asked, surprised. These are the words of passage, she replied, continuing to trace patterns. The twins are taught them during the remembering. Her fingers completed a complex sequence, and to Wayne's astonishment, the massive door began to slide open, stone grinding against stone. Cold, stale air rushed out, and they both activated their breathing apparatus. Beyond the door lay a vast chamber that stole Wayne's breath despite the mask. The ceiling soared at least 30 meters high, its surface covered entirely in glyphs that spiraled in intricate patterns. The floor was equally decorated, though portions had crumbled away, creating dangerous gaps. Most impressive were the towering structures that filled the chamber, mechanisms of unknown purpose, constructed from materials that still gleamed despite their age. The heart chamber. Kaya whispered, her voice filled with awe. It exists beyond memory. Wayne struggled to process what he was seeing. This wasn't just an archive. It was a technological wonder that predated all known civilizations in the Union. His years of solitary research suddenly seemed insignificant against this discovery. The power cells should be housed in those structures, he said, pointing to cylindrical formations near the center of the chamber. But we'll need to be careful. The floor isn't stable. They picked their way forward, slowly, testing each step before committing their weight. Twice, sections crumbled beneath Wayne's foot, forcing him to leap to safety. Kaya moved with greater surety, as if she somehow knew which areas would hold. When they reached the central structures, Wayne examined the unfamiliar technology with growing excitement. These weren't just power cells. They were an entire energy generation system, unlike anything in modern science. I think we can extract several cells without disturbing the main system, he said, opening his tool pack. They should be compatible with the station's backup power inputs with some modification. As Wayne worked to carefully remove the ancient cells, Kaya wandered a short distance away, drawn to a wall covered in particularly dense carvings. When Wayne finished his delicate extraction, securing 3 glowing cells in his specialized container, he found her tracing the carvings with trembling fingers. What is it? He asked, approaching carefully. The sundering, she whispered. The truth of the twins. The emotion in her voice was palpable. Wayne studied the carvings, recognizing only fragments with his limited knowledge. "What does it say?" Kaya was silent for a long moment. Then her voice, taking on a formal cadence, she translated, "When the stars turned cold and the great cooling began, the first ones divided their essence. Two bodies, one memory to preserve what would otherwise be lost. The twins were created to remember until the stars burn warm again." She touched a specific spiral pattern, her fingers lingering. This speaks of the joining of essences, the sharing of memory between twins. Her voice broke slightly. "What I can no longer do." Understanding began to dawn on Wayne. "You said you were incomplete. Your twin—" Lon Kaya said the name like a prayer on her lips. "My sister self. She did not survive our last offering." The implication hit Wayne like a physical blow. "The ritual you tried to perform when you arrived, that was an offering." Kaya nodded, her gaze still fixed on the ancient writing. "The twins serve by offering essence and memory to those who provide shelter. It is the exchange that keeps balance." "But that's—" Wayne stopped himself from saying barbaric. Cultural judgment wouldn't help here. "What happened to Lon?" "Our last host was unkind." Kaya said, the understatement chilling in its simplicity. "He took from Lon until nothing remained. I escaped before the same could happen to me." Wayne felt sick. What Kaya described was essentially slavery, perhaps worse. "And now you're alone, carrying half of these memories." "Yes. Without the joining, the memories will fade with my death." She turned to face Wayne fully, her expression solemn. "This is why the offering is sacred. It ensures the continuation of memory." "There must be another way," Wayne insisted. "Your people—" "My people are gone," Kaya interrupted. "Lost in the great cooling. The twins are what remain scattered across the stars, created to remember until they could return." A tremendous crash shook the chamber before Wayne could respond. A section of the ceiling collapsed some distance away, sending dust and debris billowing across the vast space. "The chamber is becoming unstable," Wayne warned, securing the container of power cells. "We need to leave, now." They moved quickly back toward the entrance, the floor becoming increasingly treacherous as tremors continued to shake the chamber. As they neared the door, a particularly violent shake sent a massive section of ceiling plummeting directly in their path. "Look out!" Wayne shouted, lunging forward to push Kaya clear of the falling debris. The impact knocked them both to the ground, with Wayne shielding Kaya's smaller form with his body. Pain exploded across his back as smaller fragments struck him, but the main piece missed them both. When the dust settled, Wayne found himself looking directly into Kaya's black eyes, their faces inches apart. Something passed between them in that moment, recognition perhaps, or understanding. "You risked yourself," Kaya said softly, wonder in her voice. "Of course," Wayne replied, wincing, as he rolled away and helped her to her feet. "That's what people do for each other." Kaya stared at him, as if he'd said something profound. Before she could respond, another tremor reminded them of their precarious situation. They hurried through the stone door, which Kaya sealed behind them with another complex pattern. The climb back to the upper levels was arduous, the pain in Wayne's back intensifying with each step. By the time they reached the living quarters, his vision was swimming with exhaustion and pain. Kaya took the container of power cells from him. "Show me how to install these," she insisted. Despite his condition, Wayne managed to guide her through the process of connecting the ancient cells to the station's power system. The technology shouldn't have been compatible by any standard logic yet. When they completed the final connection, the system hummed to life. The biolights brightened, and the environmental controls resumed normal operation. "Power restored to main systems," the station announced. "Current capacity 87%. "We did it," Wayne said, allowing himself to slump against the wall in relief. Kaya approached him with concern. "You're injured?" "Just some bruising," he assured her, though in truth it felt like more. "Remove your covering," she instructed, her tone brooking no argument. Too tired to protest, Wayne complied carefully, peeling off his torn outer garment. Kaya gasped softly at the sight of his back, which he imagined was a mess of bruises and cuts. "Remain still," she said, and before Wayne could question her, he felt her cool hands gently touch his injured skin. A strange sensation followed, like cool water flowing across his back, seeping into the damaged tissue. The pain receded almost immediately, replaced by a pleasant numbness. "What are you doing?" he asked, trying to look over his shoulder. "The offering, but freely given," Kaya explained, her voice strained with concentration. "The exchange must balance." "Kaya, you don't have to—" "I choose to," she interrupted. "You protected me without expectation. I heal you by my will, not compulsion." The distinction seemed profoundly important to her, so Wayne remained silent, allowing her to work. After several minutes, the strange sensation faded, and Kaya removed her hands. Wayne reached back tentatively, feeling smooth, undamaged skin where cuts had been. "How did you do that?" "The twins are made for exchange," Kaya said, looking noticeably more drained than before. "Energy, memory, healing, all can be transferred. It is our purpose." Wayne studied her with new understanding. "And that's why others use you as they do." Kaya nodded sadly. "Most see only what can be taken, not what might be shared." The implications of her abilities and how they had been exploited filled Wayne with righteous anger, but also curiosity. "These memories you carry, they connect to the archives here, don't they? That's how you knew about the door, the chamber." "Yes. The old words are part of my essence, passed down through countless twins before me." She hesitated, then added, "I could share them with you. Not all that would require the full offering, but fragments. Enough to understand." The scholar in Wayne was immediately intrigued, but caution prevailed. "What would that cost you?" Kaya seemed surprised by the question. "Energy, recovery time. Nothing permanent if done with care." "And if I refuse?" Her surprise deepened. "Then the memories remain mine alone. The choice is yours as host." Wayne considered her words carefully. "I would be honored to learn what you're willing to share, but only if it causes you no harm or obligation. And not today. You need rest after healing me." The concept of choice without consequence seemed to continue to perplex Kaya, but she nodded in agreement. "Tomorrow, then, when strength returns." That night, Wayne insisted Kaya take his sleeping area, while he used the makeshift bed in the storage room. Despite her protests, he was firm. As he settled into the uncomfortable space, surrounded by archived materials and equipment, his mind raced with the implications of their discovery. The lower chamber alone would rewrite Union understanding of prehistoric civilization. More immediately concerning was Kaya's situation. As a twin, separated from her sister, and carrying irreplaceable memories, she was vulnerable to those who would exploit her abilities, including potentially the Union itself. Wayne had seen firsthand how the Union treated assets of scientific value. His diplomatic failure on Nexus Prime had been precisely because he objected to the treatment of indigenous knowledge keepers, which had resulted in his current, self-imposed exile. Would Kaya face similar or worse if her existence became known to Union authorities? Sleep came fitfully haunted by dreams of falling debris and ancient chambers filled with whispers in languages long dead. The next several days established a routine between Wayne and Kaya. During the day, they would work together in the archives, with Kaya providing insights that advanced Wayne's understanding exponentially. In the evenings, Kaya would share small fragments of her memories through a gentle touch to Wayne's temple, transferring knowledge of specific glyphs or historical contexts that illuminated his research. Each shared memory left Kaya temporarily drained, but caused no lasting harm, and the experience for Wayne was revelatory. Not only did he gain direct understanding of the ancient language, but he occasionally glimpsed flashes of Kaya's own experiences, her childhood with Lon, their training in the remembering, and, briefly, painfully, the loss of her twin. As the days passed, the initial awkwardness between them gave way to comfortable companionship. Kaya's formal manner softened, and Wayne found himself speaking more than he had in years. They shared stories, his of Earth and university life before the Nexus Prime incident, hers of the scattered communities of twins and their guardians moving from world to world as necessity dictated. It was during one such evening, after a particularly productive day, deciphering a complex tablet detailing astronomical observations, that Kaya asked the question Wayne had been dreading. "Why do you hide here alone with the old words?" Wayne's instinct was to deflect, as he had whenever the subject approached his past. But something about the genuine concern in Kaya's eyes broke through his defenses. "I failed." He admitted the words, painful, even after 6 years. On Nexus Prime, I was part of a diplomatic mission to establish relations with the Vin Collective. The Union wanted access to their psychoactive crystals for medical research. He paused, the memories still sharp. What they didn't tell us, what I discovered too late, was that these crystals were sentient, part of a networked consciousness that included the Vin themselves. Harvesting them would be akin to partial lobotomy of the entire species. Kaya listened silently, her expression attentive. When I raised objections, presented evidence of sentience, I was removed from the mission. The official called it native superstition and proceeded with a trade agreement. Wayne's voice hardened. I leaked the evidence to both Union media and Vin elders. It created a diplomatic incident, collapsed the agreement, and got me blacklisted from academic and diplomatic service. You chose truth over advancement, Kaya observed. Why do you consider this failure? Wayne looked away. Because it wasn't enough. The Union simply sent another team more discreet, more willing to overlook the ethical concerns. The harvesting continues, just hidden from public view. Yet you acted according to your understanding of right, Kaya pressed, even knowing the cost. And what good did it do? Wayne asked bitterly. The Vin still suffer. I'm exiled. The Union continues as it always has. Kaya was silent for a long moment. Then, with unexpected gentleness, she placed her hand over his. You kept memory alive. You refused to let truth be erased. This is not small, Wayne. It is the essence of what the twins preserve. Something in her words penetrated the shell of guilt and failure Wayne had built around himself. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps bearing witness, preserving truth was valuable, even when it couldn't change outcomes. It was what he was doing here with the archives, after all. As if reading his thoughts, Kaya continued. The old words tell of many great coolings before this one. Times when knowledge was lost, civilizations fell. But always, some memory remained to seed the new growth. This is how the universe balances death and life, forgetting and remembering. For the first time in years, Wayne felt something like peace settle over him. Not complete absolution, but acceptance of his choices and their consequences. Thank you, he said simply. Kaya smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her features. In that moment, Wayne realized how far they had both come from their first encounter. He, from suspicion and isolation, she from subservience and fear. The moment was shattered by the station's alert system blaring to life. Orbital approach detected. Union registry vessel identified. Landing trajectory calculated. Wayne sprang to his feet, heart racing. That's impossible. No one knows I'm here except the supply service, and they're not due for months. He rushed to the monitoring system, Kaya close behind. The screen showed a small Union vessel descending through Threer 9's turbulent atmosphere, somehow managing to stay on course, despite the perpetual storm. Could it be a routine inspection? Kaya suggested, though her tense posture betrayed her concern. Wayne shook his head. The archive station is officially abandoned. My presence here is unofficial. The Union believes this outpost was destroyed by geological activity decades ago. Kaya's expression darkened. Then they come for me. How could they possibly know you're here? Wayne demanded. But even as he spoke, understanding dawned. Your ship. When it crashed, it must have triggered automated signals. The previous host would have reported my escape, Kaya added grimly. If they track the ship's trajectory, Wayne checked the vessel's estimated landing time, 20 minutes at most. His mind raced through options, none of them good. If the Union discovered Kaya, they would certainly claim her as a scientific asset, a euphemism for captivity and study. If they discovered his unauthorized use of the archive station, the consequences would be less severe, but still unpleasant. You need to hide, he decided, already moving toward the lower levels. The heart chamber. They won't know how to access it. Kaya caught his arm. And leave you to face them alone. No, I will not hide while you risk yourself. Kaya, you don't understand what they'll do if they find you? I understand perfectly, she interrupted, her voice steady. I have spent my existence being passed from one host to another. The Union would be no different. Then we both hide, Wayne suggested desperately. Kaya shook her head. They will search thoroughly once they find the station occupied, and the storm prevents escape on foot. Her expression became resolved. We must face them, but on our terms. Despite his fear, Wayne recognized the wisdom in her approach. Running would only delay the inevitable. What do you suggest? Truth, Kaya said simply. But truth wielded as weapon and shield. They spent the remaining time in hurried preparation. Wayne gathered specific archive materials and research notes, while Kaya prepared herself through a form of meditation that she claimed would strengthen her defenses against memory probing. They agreed on a strategy that was risky, but offered the best chance of protecting both Kaya's freedom and the archive's integrity. The station shook as the Union vessel landed nearby. Minutes later, the external sensors detected 3 figures approaching through the storm. Ready, Wayne asked, standing tall despite his racing heart. Kaya moved to his side, her posture formal but proud. Yes. The outer airlock cycle engaged without their input. The visitors had override codes. Wayne and Kaya waited in the main archive room, surrounded by the ancient tablets and Wayne's years of research. A deliberate choice of battlefield. 3 figures entered when the inner door opened. 2 wore the distinctive uniforms of Union regulatory officers, one with the insignia of a protocol specialist, the other a security observer. The third wore civilian clothes but carried himself with the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to command. Dr. Wayne Harrington, the civilian, said, removing his protective mask to reveal a bland, bureaucratic face. Quite a surprise to find you here. Official records list you as having returned to Earth after the unfortunate business on Nexus Prime. Wayne kept his expression neutral. Official records are often incomplete, Administrator. Voss, Union Department of Historical Assets. The man's eyes moved to Kaya, narrowing slightly. And you appear to have company. Interesting. This is Kaya, Wayne said deliberately, omitting any further identification. A fellow scholar interested in pre-Union glyphs. Administrator Voss smiled thinly. Indeed. And would fellow scholar Kaya care to explain how she came to be in possession of a registered research vessel, reported stolen from the Cygnus Cultural Conservation Facility? Before Kaya could respond, Wayne stepped forward. Administrator, I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Kaya arrived recently seeking shelter from the storm. I know nothing about any stolen vessel. A convenient story, Voss remarked, gesturing to the security observer. Scan them both. The officer raised a handheld device, but Wayne interrupted. Under what authority? This is an abandoned archive station, not Union territory. Your jurisdiction here is limited at best. Voss's smile faded. Dr. Harrington, your status after Nexus Prime leaves you in no position to challenge Union authority. We are here to recover stolen property, both the vessel and, more importantly, the twin. So they knew what Kaya was. Wayne's heart sank, but he maintained his composure. Kaya is a sentient being, not property. According to Union Classification Statute 42B, artificially created memory vessels are designated scientific assets, not independent entities. Voss recited coldly. The twins were engineered specifically to preserve and transfer memory. Their status is well established. Engineered by whom? Wayne challenged. The civilization that created them predates the Union by thousands of years. You have no claim. Ancient origins do not negate current law. The protocol specialist interjected, speaking for the first time. Precedent established in the Nexus Prime ruling on psychoactive crystals confirms this. The reference was deliberate, a twist of the knife. Wayne felt a surge of anger, but controlled it. Then, you should know that I've already transmitted comprehensive documentation on Kaya and the archive discoveries to multiple academic repositories, including evidence of twin sentience that far exceeds the Vin crystals case. It was a bluff. He hadn't sent anything, but the momentary uncertainty on Voss's face suggested it had hit its mark. Furthermore, Wayne continued, pressing his advantage. I've established an automated system that will publicly broadcast the complete contents of this station's archives, including Union suppression of pre-Union technological discoveries, if certain verification protocols aren't met daily. This was also false, but not entirely implausible, given Wayne's past whistleblowing. The tension in the room rose perceptibly. You're bluffing, Voss said, but without conviction. Am I? Wayne countered. You know my history, Administrator. Do you really want to risk another Nexus Prime incident? One that would reveal not just ethical violations, but deliberate suppression of historical knowledge that contradicts Union technological supremacy narratives. Kaya stepped forward, her voice calm, but resonant with authority. I claim right of memory under the Ancestral Knowledge Protection Clause of Union Charter Article 7. The protocol specialist looked startled. That clause applies to indigenous knowledge keepers, not— I am indigenous to this system, Kaya interrupted. Created here before your Union existed. My memories predate your civilization. Your own laws protect me. Wayne concealed his surprise at Kaya's legal knowledge, another hidden depth to her capabilities. The Union officials exchanged glances, clearly unprepared for this line of defense. Voss recovered first. Interesting arguments both, but ultimately irrelevant. We have authorization to collect the asset and any related technological artifacts. Then collect them, Wayne challenged. But be aware that the moment you do, every major academic institution and media outlet in Union space will receive detailed documentation of twin sentience archive suppression and Union exploitation of pre-Union civilizations. He locked eyes with Voss. Your career might survive. The Union's historical narrative won't. For several tense moments, no one spoke. The security observer's hand rested on his weapon, while the protocol specialist frantically consulted a datapad, presumably searching for legal counters to their arguments. Finally, Voss spoke, his tone carefully measured. Perhaps a compromise might be reached. The Union's primary concern is knowledge preservation and proper study of historical assets. Kaya is not an asset, Wayne insisted. For the purposes of this discussion, Voss continued, as if Wayne hadn't spoken, let's say the twin is a knowledge keeper under Article 7. That still requires proper documentation and registration. Documentation I've already prepared, Wayne lied smoothly, including comprehensive memory cataloging and translation indices, which you would provide to the Union. Copies only, Wayne specified. The originals remain here under joint custody. Voss frowned. The Union requires primary access to such significant historical resources. Then the Union should have maintained this archive properly, instead of abandoning it as irrelevant, Wayne countered. I've spent 6 years preserving what you discarded. My terms are non-negotiable. Another silence fell as Voss calculated his options. Wayne knew they were walking a precarious line. If Voss called their bluff completely, they had no real defense against forcible removal. Their only hope was that the risk of exposure outweighed the potential gain of capturing Kaya. There is another solution, Kaya said suddenly. One that satisfies both preservation concerns and freedom of memory. All eyes turned to her. The official record can show that I was recovered and processed, according to Statute 42B, she proposed. In reality, I remain here as Wayne's research partner, continuing the archive work. Regular reports will be submitted to the Union, sharing discoveries, without compromising the original source. And we're to simply trust that these reports will be forthcoming? Voss asked skeptically. You'll have verification through the automated system Wayne mentioned, Kaya replied smoothly, building on Wayne's bluff. Regular transmissions will confirm our continued work. Wayne realized what Kaya was offering a way for Voss to save face with his superiors, while essentially changing nothing about their actual situation. It was brilliant in its simplicity. Additionally, Wayne added, seeing the potential, I'll reinstate my Union academic credentials, making this an official research outpost. That gives you oversight without direct intervention. Voss considered this proposition clearly, weighing the bureaucratic advantages. An official success to report regular data acquisition and the restoration of a previously written-off archive station, all without the risk of a public relations disaster if Wayne's alleged evidence went public. The twin would need to be officially processed, he said finally. At least on record. Meaning, Wayne asked cautiously. Memory cataloging genetic sample official designation, the protocol specialist explained. All can be done remotely through our ship's systems. The data enters Union records, but the knowledge keeper remains in place. It was still demeaning treating Kaya as a specimen to be cataloged, but far better than the alternative of captivity and exploitation. I would require certain guarantees, Kaya stated, her dignity undiminished. My memories remain my own. No probing beyond surface cataloging, no genetic replication, and official recognition of this station as a sovereign archive, protected under Article 7. More negotiations followed, tedious and tense, but ultimately productive. 3 hours later, a compromise was reached. Kaya would submit to limited documentation, essentially creating an official record of her existence that satisfied Union protocols without invasive procedures. Wayne would be reinstated as an official archive researcher with appropriate credentials and supply lines. The station would be designated a protected knowledge repository, giving it a measure of autonomy from direct Union oversight. Most importantly, Kaya would remain free, her status ambiguous enough in the official records to protect her from future collection attempts. On paper, she would be classified as a registered memory artifact in controlled conservation environment, a dehumanizing designation that nonetheless provided legal protection. In reality, she would be Wayne's equal partner in the ongoing archive work. When the Union officials finally departed, returning to their vessel with data packets, but no captive asset, Wayne and Kaya stood in silence for several minutes, hardly believing their narrow escape. Will they honor the agreement? Kaya finally asked. Voss will, Wayne replied, with surprising confidence. Not from ethical concerns, but practicality. This solution gives him regular data access without risk. Bureaucrats value stability above all. Kaya moved to the window, watching the Union vessel ascend through the storm. They will return eventually. Yes, Wayne agreed, joining her. But we'll be better prepared next time, and we'll have made progress they can't ignore. Progress on what? Wayne smiled, a plan forming that had been nascent in his mind since their discovery of the heart chamber. The Living Archive Manifesto, a formal documentation of memory as living heritage, not artifact, using the ancient technology and your knowledge as proof of continuity. Kaya's eyes widened with understanding. You wish to change how memory is preserved, not in tablets or data, but in consciousness. Exactly. The old words weren't meant to be static recordings, but living knowledge passed through minds that understand and evolve with it. Wayne's voice grew passionate. The Union's approach, cataloging, storing, controlling, misses the fundamental nature of memory. It's not about possessing information, but experiencing it. This is why the twins were created, Kaya said softly. Not as vessels, but as participants in memory. And in living, Wayne added gently. Something shifted in Kaya's expression, a realization perhaps, or a decision. I have something to show you, she said. something I was not ready to share before. She led him to the work table, where several tablets were arranged. With careful movements, she rearranged them in a pattern that seemed random at first, but gradually revealed itself as a spiral, the symbol for consciousness or essence. The twins were not created only to remember, she explained, tracing connections between specific glyphs. We were made to eventually share, to scatter memory back into the world when the time was right, to seed new understanding after the great cooling ends. And you believe that time is now? Wayne asked. Kaya considered. Perhaps beginning. The Union seeks control, but you sought understanding. This suggests the cooling of minds may be warming. The poetry of her words struck Wayne deeply. So what do we do? We create the new way of remembering, Kaya said simply. Beginning with this. She placed her hand gently against his temple. If you consent. Wayne hesitated only briefly. I do. The transfer that followed was unlike their previous exchanges. Instead of specific knowledge of glyphs or historical events, Wayne experienced a rush of sensation and emotion, Kaya's own memories flowing into him like a warm current. He saw her childhood with Lon, felt their connection as they learned the old words together, experienced the joy of their first successful remembering ceremony. Most powerfully, he felt Kaya's grief at Lon's loss, her fear when she escaped her last host, and most surprisingly, her growing trust and affection for Wayne himself, seen through her eyes, as a being of unexpected compassion. When the connection ended, Wayne found himself breathless, tears streaming down his face. That was the true offering, Kaya finished. Not service or subjugation, but sharing, equal exchange of essence. Wayne understood now. The ritual Kaya had attempted upon first arriving had been a corrupted version of something far more profound. Not submission, but communion. Not taking, but mutual giving. This is what we'll document, he decided. The living archive approach. Memory as shared experience, not data to be mined. Their work began immediately, fueled by new purpose. Using the ancient technology from the heart chamber, combined with Wayne's academic knowledge and Kaya's living memory, they created a framework for a new understanding of historical preservation. They documented the twin memory transfer process, not as extraction, but as communication, a model that could revolutionize how the Union approached all forms of consciousness-based knowledge. Months passed. The promised reports were sent to the Union, containing enough valuable translations and discoveries to satisfy administrative requirements without revealing their true breakthrough work. Wayne's academic rehabilitation progressed smoothly, bringing improved supplies and occasionally requests for specific research, which they fulfilled alongside their primary project. Through it all, Wayne and Kaya's connection deepened. They established a daily ritual of memory, sharing sometimes ancient knowledge from the archives, sometimes personal experiences. Wayne shared memories of Earth's oceans and forests, of university lectures and family gatherings. Kaya shared fragments of worlds she had visited, beings she had encountered, and increasingly her hopes for a future different from her past. The perpetual storm of Threer 9 continued unabated outside, but within the archive station, warmth flourished. What had begun as an awkward arrangement of necessity transformed into partnership, then friendship, and finally something neither had words to fully describe, a connection that transcended conventional relationships. One evening, as they sat before the heart chamber's massive door, finishing the day's work on their manifesto, Kaya asked a question that had clearly been on her mind. When this work is complete, will you return to your world? Wayne considered the question seriously. 6 years ago, he had come to Threer 9 as a form of self-imposed exile, punishing himself for perceived failure. Now, the thought of leaving felt like abandonment of something precious. This is my world now, he replied simply. Our world. The work we're doing here matters more than anything I could contribute elsewhere. Kaya studied him with her penetrating gaze. You are certain there would be no offering required to stay? No obligation? Wayne smiled at her continued concern with his freedom of choice. I'm certain. though I'd like to think I'm offering something of value by remaining. You are, Kaya assured him, reaching out to take his hand. More than you know. Together, they traced a new glyph on the ancient door, not from the old language, but one of their own creation. A symbol that combined the spiral of memory with elements representing both human and twin essence, intertwined in balanced exchange. The first mark of the new archive, Kaya observed. The first of many, Wayne agreed. Outside, the endless storm of Threer 9 howled, as it had for millennia. Inside, in defiance of cold and isolation, warmth and connection flourished, a small beginning perhaps, but one with the potential to grow beyond the confines of their shelter into something that might eventually transform the understanding of memory throughout known space. What had begun with an offering made in desperate hope shelter in exchange for service had become something neither could have imagined, a home built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and the simplest yet most profound of revelations, that warmth, love, and belonging cannot be taken or given in transaction, but only created together in the sharing of essence. As they completed their day's work and prepared to return to the upper levels, Wayne paused at the threshold, looking back at the vast chamber with its ancient wisdom. Do you think they knew, the ones who created the twins who built this place? Do you think they foresaw what we're doing now? Kaya considered the question, her expression thoughtful. The old words speak of cycles of cooling and warming, of forgetting and remembering. Perhaps they did not know specifically, but they hoped. They created the possibility. Like planting seeds before winter, not knowing exactly what will grow, but trusting in spring's eventual return, Wayne suggested. Yes, Kaya agreed, a smile illuminating her features. And now we tend what grows. Hand in hand, they ascended the spiral staircase, leaving the ancient heart chamber to its timeless slumber, while carrying its essence forward into a future neither could fully envision. But both were committed to creating a future where memory lived not in stone or data, but in the conscious exchange between minds, reaching across time-space and difference to find understanding.